Hello friends and enemies, welcome back to Happy For Now. It's me, Isabel, here with my Dark Romance Recs for the readathon and in general, and then also my TBR, which we'll talk about in a minute. So I'm gonna link to my light dark romance video down below for y'all to check out. Some of these will be for beginners. You know, proceed with caution, be prepared to DNF if something's too hard for you. I will give some trigger warnings, but I will put them down below in the description box for you. But anyways, this is our bingo board, and I'm gonna tell you my recs and what prompts they would fit for. So first things first, we have The Never King by Nikki St. Croix, which is a recent read for me that I loved. This was recommended to me by Megan over at This Past Romance. She bullied Tamika and I into reading this, and she is not a dark romance reader and she loved it, so you might like it. This is a Peter Pan reverse harem or polyamorous romance, I guess, really. This follows Winnie, who is one of the Darling girls. So every 18th birthday, the Darling daughters get kidnapped and taken to Neverland, and Peter Pan is trying to find his shadow. It has been lost. This is the first book in the series. The second one comes out at the end of April, so it's perfect time to dive in. I don't want to give you too much, but this one is amazing, and it would hit almost all of the prompts. And if you stretch, I think you could justify it making the mafia prompt as well. But it definitely hits removal of a body part, touch her and you die vibes, badass heroine, criminal, public sex kind of, an obsessive hero for sure. You could kind of make all those work. You know, it's a solid book. I loved this book. It took me by surprise. Big time. Did not expect to like it as much as I did. It just was a nice, quick, pretty dirty, and dark novella. So yeah, if you haven't picked up The Never King and it's like piquing your interest at all, I highly recommend. And I don't want to tell you too much because like literally I will give the plot away. Next we have Sing Me to Sleep by R.M. Virtues. This is a dark romance that follows a sleep paralysis demon. This basically, he can touch her in her sleep. This one has heavy content warnings on it, and I will link to those down below on R.M. Virtue's website because it's a lot. But I do want to say this is one that I would highly recommend you check triggers for before going into, because it has more than you might think. But this follows a sleep paralysis demon who pleasures the woman at night. I cannot remember her name. But this is really good. This has touch her and you die vibes and a badass heroine. There's like some interesting world building happening for the future books in this series as well. Like we get some setup for the sleep demon world, but also it's in the real world, and we're following a girl who is having night terrors every night basically because she lost her dad, and it unravels that plot line. But it does give you the touch her and you die and badass heroine vibes because she honestly is such a badass. Next we have one of my favorite authors, Christina C. Jones, is Vegas Night Trilogy. These are all novellas, like they're all under 100 pages. Book 1 deals with miscarriage, so I do want to give that note here quickly because I know that's a trigger for some people, and it's something that often doesn't get brought up in the notes for content warnings. So the Vegas Nights Trilogy are like dark light romances, I would call them. In our first book, our hero kidnaps his wife because she wants a divorce, and they spend a weekend together working out their problems. It's very hot, it's very dirty. Again, it would be like touch her and you die vibes. He was a criminal, so you could do criminal prompt for this. And I would say obsessive hero and badass heroines. For a lot of these, Christine C. Jones does not write meek characters, so she definitely nails a lot of the prompts with this one. Then we have one of my new favorites, and one thing, a genre or a subgenre I don't read a lot, which is motorcycle romances. We have Kate C. Wells with her MC series. I'm gonna recommend Nickel, which is the one I read most recently. This one has a hero, an age gap where he's like 10 years older than her, and he ends up protecting her when she's like 14, and these guys are like videoing her and bullying her. He kicks their asses. And it follows him continuing to like show up and protect her, but he refuses to be with her until she is in her 20s, and it takes a lot of work for them to get together, and then like he bolts and then ends up going to therapy to learn to deal with his anger issues because he's so afraid he's going to hurt her. And he goes to therapy to get better, and he 100% gives the touch her and you die vibes, like to a T, because he will literally kick anyone's ass who touches her in an inappropriate way. And also I would say Story, our heroine in this one, is pretty badass. She knows who she is, she knows what she wants, and she's gonna go after it. And to me, that's a badass heroine. We also have, of course, the obsessive hero because he's obsessed with her. And I would say you could make this fit for a criminal. They're kind of an on the up and up MC, but they're not, if that makes sense. And I feel like Nickel Nickel's kind of a criminal, so I feel like it fits. Then we have another series that I love, which is Immortals After Dark by Kresley Cole. Yes, this is paranormal romance, but it is 100% a dark romance. The first book, our hero chews his own leg off to go rescue our heroine, like when he smells her. You could pick up a couple different ones in this series. So the first book, A Hunger Like No Other, would work. That would also cover a lot of prompts. So you also could enter with book 4, which is Dark Needs at Night's Edge. This follows Noemi, who is a ghost. This is one of my favorites in the series in the early half. And it follows a very dark, possessive hero, Conrad, who's a vampire and has to figure out how to like calm himself and out of his bloodlust. So yeah, highly recommend. You could definitely pick up these. I feel like it hits all the prompts except for criminal and mafia, depending on which book you pick up. I mean, I feel like, you know, to an extent you could stretch that, that it is kind of a mafia book, but criminal would work for some of the Torture Island books. So depending on where you're at, again, Immortals After Dark is a great option to pick up if you want a paranormal dark romance. And then last but not least, I'm going to recommend All Things Burn by Jodie Slaughter. This follows an Irish hitman, and he is helping a woman who is in trouble and her like get through some issues. There are a couple little things that are gonna bother some people. They did not bother me. I love Jodie Slaughter and I loved this book immensely. She seeks out a hitman and it's him. Sparks fly and they like have this really hot romance. And he is an Irish American hitman who has made a life out of this, obviously. It's really, really good. This does feature dark themes, obviously murder, violence, some domestic violence I want to note as well here because I do think that's important to know. Oh, Nickel also has domestic violence if that's a trigger for you. But this was just a good, different mafia romance, and that's what I loved about it. All right, last, we're gonna talk about my TBR. So I'm doing a spinner wheel again where I use the app. The app I use is called Spin the Wheel. I've done this for other readathons. I've picked out a bunch of books. And I actually like have it on an arc spinner right now where like I'll pick out arcs that way. But I have about 12 books picked out right now, tentatively, and I'm looking for recommendations on novellas that are dark romance that I can read during this readathon because a lot of these are very long books and I would like to read more than just like 2 books. And if it's only in long form, I'm not gonna read more than 2 books. So two of the books I have on my list, of course, are Sophie Lark's. I would either like to read There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark, which is about a murderer, like serial killer guy, and an artist who is also an artist, I think. I don't know. I've not read a ton about this, but everybody I know loved it. Or I would like to read Stolen Air by Sophie Lark, which is the second book in her Brutal Birthright series. I also have Carnal Urges by J.T. Gessinger on my TBR. I've read the first book. I have the audio of the second one, and I would like to dive into it. The first book ended on a cliffhanger that sets up book 2, and I just really need to get to it sooner than later. I also have No Longer Afraid by Christina C. Jones on my TBR. This is her motorcycle club romance that just came out. I'm really excited to check it out. Again, I'm working on reading all of her books if you're new here, so I definitely try to put her on as many TBRs as I can. Then we have Second Comes War by Lilith Vincent. This is the second book in her Reverse Harem Mafia series. I read the first book. The first book was our pick for the first Dark Romance Readathon. A lot of our prompts centered around that, and I would definitely like to continue and finish the series up sooner than later. Then we have Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. This is one that I don't know a ton about. It's very long though. And I know that this is about a guy who like stalks a woman and their romance. It sounds delightfully dark and twisted, so I'm very curious to see what I think of it. Then we have Oaths and Omissions by Sav R. Miller. I'm skipping the second book in her series because I saw some content notes for it that made me think it might not be for me. But this one is the Helen of Troy story retelling situation, so we'll see. I also have, of course, some Katie Robert. So I have The Bastard's Betrayal by Katie Robert on here. I have the audio of this from my Patreon membership through her, and I would like to get to it because I did just finish the O'Malley series and get caught up on that recently, so it'd be nice to just be fully caught up. I also have Queen by Katie Robert, which is the third book in her Vampire Queen Sacrifice series. I somehow haven't read it yet, and I don't know how. I don't want to say too much, but it does follow a girl who is given to an ancient vampire, and then it turns into this huge, like, polyamorous situation. It's great. Then we have Queen of Madness by Lee Jacquot. This is one that I got a rec from on TikTok, I believe, or Katie Roberts. Somebody read this and really liked it. And the last book comes out, or the next book comes out at the end of April. So another one I'd love to read sooner than later. It's not super long, it's under 300 pages. But yeah, apparently it involves like mob stuff and it's a bodyguard romance. So very curious to see where that goes. I don't know a lot about it. A lot of people I know really liked it on my friends list. So it just sounds like a fun time. I also have Her Vigilante by Lillian Lark on my TBR. This follows a vigilante and their romance. Again, sounds like it'll be a dark-ish romance. It may be more dark light, and that's fine by me. Next, we have The Hot Vampire Next Door by Nikki St. Croix. So I wrecked Peter Pan, and I was like, wow, we gotta put this on the spinner wheel. Because why not? I mean, I'm assuming it'll be somewhat dark because like Peter Pan was dark, so Peter Pan the Never King was dark, so I feel like this has to also be dark. Then we have Sidetracked by St. Abby. So I read the first book in the Mindfuck series, and I would like to actually finish that series this year. I know that like it's complete, and obviously we're not getting more because St. Abby unfortunately passed away last year. I think it was last year. But yeah, there's like 5 books in that series, so I would like to just go ahead and read them all sooner than later, because I really like the setup for them, which is that it's an FBI agent and a serial killer dating, and the serial killer he's looking for is the woman he's dating, and he doesn't know that yet. So pretty interesting if you ask me, pretty interesting. So yeah, those are the books on my spinner wheel besides whatever else y'all tell me in the comments I should add, because you know, why not? We're gonna just do random chance for the TBR on this readathon. I think that's honestly my favorite way to do these. So if you made it this far in the video, let me know what books you're putting on your TBR or you think I should prioritize. And if you don't want to do that, leave me a skull emoji. I will have links to all of the books I talked about in that description box, as well as links to Be My Friend anywhere on the internet. And I will see y'all in just a few days. Bye.
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking, we'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away.